You know, if you've spent any time online lately, you've definitely noticed how just skipping breakfast got this massive rebrand. It went from a rushed morning habit to a total cultural phenomenon, intermittent fasting. Today, we're cutting through all the hype and leaning entirely on the science to see what literally happens inside your body when you restrict your eating window. Okay, let's get right into it.
Let your body switch into a completely different metabolic mode. I mean, you've probably seen bold claims just like this, right? The idea that fasting flips some biological switch, putting you into a completely different metabolic mode that turbocharges your health. It sounds absolutely incredible. The pitch is basically an effortless biological upgrade just by watching the clock. It is super tempting.
But does it actually work differently? This is the core question we really want to unpack today. Does restricting your eating window genuinely trigger some unique biological mechanism, or is it really just a clever way to eat less food? We need to figure out if intermittent fasting operates on a fundamentally different level, or if the enthusiasm is maybe running a bit ahead of the actual science. We're talking 16-8 daily windows, alternate day fasting, and other restricted eating patterns. First things first, we have to establish that intermittent fasting is really an umbrella term. Compressing your meals into an 8-hour window is biologically vastly different from full alternate day fasting, where you might go 36 hours without eating a thing. A lot of popular content treats these like they're totally interchangeable, but a shorter daily fast definitely does not do the exact same thing to your body as going without food for a day and a half.
Intermittent fasting versus standard calorie restriction. To find out if fasting actually operates on a different level, we need to look at the ultimate scientific stress test, which is pitting it directly against standard calorie restriction. Think about it. If intermittent fasting genuinely switches you into some superior fat-burning mode, then comparing it head-to-head against a traditional diet, where someone eats the exact same amount of food just spread throughout the day, should prove it, right? We should see a massive difference in weight loss.
At matched calories, weight loss results are similar. Okay, here is the biggest twist in the clinical data. When researchers literally lock people in a metabolic ward, strictly controlling and measuring every single crumb, the dramatic weight loss advantage of fasting basically disappears. If a fasting group and a regular eating group consume the exact same number of calories, the results are almost perfectly similar. Just timing your meals doesn't inherently melt away extra body fat. A delivery mechanism for calorie reduction. The crucial takeaway here is that for a lot of people, an eating window is essentially just an indirect delivery mechanism for eating less. It makes sense, right? If you squeeze all your eating into an 8-hour block, you just naturally run out of time to eat as much as you would in 14 hours. It absolutely works for weight loss, but not through some totally separate mechanism. It works because you're eating fewer calories.
So if it's just about calories, why are so many people obsessed with it? It's a lingering and honestly fascinating question. If it's just a delivery system for eating less, why is the internet so fiercely convinced there are completely unique metabolic mechanisms at play? Well, it's because there actually are a couple of very real physiological processes that kick in when we don't eat, and popular culture's just grabbed onto them with incredible enthusiasm.
That brings us to autophagy, which is a genuine cellular process where cells clear out damaged components during periods of fasting. Think of it like your cells bringing in a microscopic cleaning crew. When nutrients are scarce, your cells stop focusing on growth and start taking out the cellular trash just to survive. The science absolutely confirms this process increases during fasting. It sounds like the ultimate cellular fountain of youth, and it's basically the foundation of all those major anti-aging claims you see online. But let's look at the research setting versus the autophagy evidence. In animal models, it is well documented, with extreme fasts. But in human studies, specifically with 16-hour windows, considerably less established. See, this is where the marketing gets way ahead of the science. Taking a lab mouse and starving it for 48 hours, which is practically a lifetime for a mouse, produces beautiful autophagy data. But claiming that skipping breakfast triggers that exact same massive cellular cleanup in you and me, that is a huge stretch of our current data. Then there's metabolic switching. This is the body shifting toward burning stored fat for energy during a fasted state. This is another very real physiological process that sets fasting apart. When there's no food coming in, your body slowly depletes its immediate sugar stores and is forced to start burning stored fat for fuel. So yes, that is a documented reality of how fasting works differently on a cellular level, but here's the catch. Does simply making that metabolic switch magically improve your long-term health completely independent of the weight you're losing from eating less? The research just doesn't confidently support that leap yet.
Blood sugar and insulin sensitivity benefits? To be totally fair and objective, the science does show some promise here, particularly for populations already at risk for metabolic issues, like folks with prediabetes. This is super fascinating because it implies there might actually be a genuine metabolic advantage for some people, completely aside from just dropping pounds. But we've got to be careful. These studies are often pretty small, and the results aren't totally consistent across different groups yet. Promising, for sure, but definitely not a settled universal truth.
So, is it safe for everyone? With all this nuance, knowing the weight loss is mostly calorie-driven and the advanced metabolic benefits are highly specific, we really have to ask this, because it's so often sold as a completely harmless, universally beneficial biohack. But as we know, biology rarely works quite that simply. Step 1. Consider a history of disordered eating. Step 2. Pregnancy or specific medical conditions. And Step 3. Athletes with high training demands. Fasting content rarely talks about this, but structured food restriction can seriously reinforce harmful patterns for anyone with a history of disordered eating. Also, it's generally not recommended during pregnancy or for certain medical conditions without strict medical oversight. And for athletes, deliberately restricting fuel when your body desperately needs it to recover can genuinely mess with your performance.
It is not a universally safe for everyone protocol. Look, while it's definitely not dangerous for the general population, this reality check proves it is absolutely not something to just blindly recommend to every single person. We all love a one-size-fits-all solution, but the human body is just too complex for that. Intermittent fasting is a tool, highly effective in the right context, but potentially detrimental in the wrong one.
Not a scam, but not a metabolic miracle. After peeling back all the layers of hype, looking at those calorie match studies, and seeing the gaps in the human autophagy research, we arrive right here at the core truth. It's not a scam, but it's not a miracle either. It doesn't magically defy the laws of thermodynamics, but it's also not useless. What it is a legitimate, sustainable strategy for eating less overall. For the right person, it is a highly effective way to reduce overall calorie intake, and honestly, that is genuinely useful. We really shouldn't discount how valuable it is to find a system that helps you manage your nutrition without feeling completely deprived. If compressing your eating window naturally stops your late-night snacking, that is a massive win. It just works mostly for behavioral reasons rather than dramatic metabolic ones.
The eating pattern that works is the one you can actually sustain. Ultimately, the specific hours on the clock matter far less, and finding an eating pattern you can actually keep up for the long haul. That's the most honest, even if it's slightly less exciting, version of the science. Health isn't built in a magic 16-hour window. It's built over years of consistent habits. Long-term sustainability is the true metric of success.
Have you tried intermittent fasting and did the reality match what you expected? I really want to leave you with this to consider today. If you've tried shifting your eating window around, did you actually feel that so-called metabolic switch? Or did you just find a convenient way to skip a meal and eat a little less? Reflect on your own experience through the lens of this science, because sometimes the simplest explanation is the truest one. Thanks for joining me for this, and I'll catch you next time.